Hello everybody and welcome back to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast. I'm Max Sayes, your host, and as Forest fall to defeat to Aston Villa after another mad few minutes in the first half, costing the Reds, but a much better second half. In fact, I think we battered Villa in that second half. So many chances, so many near chances, and maybe another day Forest would have picked up a late point away from home. Plenty of positives to talk about, some negatives as well, as we get into this final run-in now with not long to go as the Reds hope to close in on the Champions League places. We are live on Facebook, Nottingham Forest News, and YouTube Garibaldi Red on this wonderful Sunday afternoon. The sun is shining where I am, Steve, so it might not be where you are, mate, in sunny Stoke, but it's shining in sunny Manchester. Joined, first of all, by Steve Bennett from the Forest Supporters Trust and obviously podcast regular. Steve, how are you, mate? We were all there yesterday, and we were just saying it's a nice trip to Villa Park. It's one I always look forward to.
For me, it's really easy, Max, because it's just an hour down the M6 from where I live near sort of Stoke Crew area. So yeah, it was good. I mean, I guess we'll get onto the detail of the match later, but it was a bit mixed. But I came away with broad optimism. So there we go.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought we all questioned Nuno's substitution at half time, and that proved to show really what maybe Nuno knows what he's doing, and we're football fans for a reason, and we don't manage the team. We'll get on to that. Also joined by Sara Brown. Sara, how are you? I mean, you've been doing the rounds on the media recently, Sara. You were on 5 Live last week. I had texts from colleagues at work going, Max, we need a Forest fan last minute, and sorry, Steve, Sara got the last minute call up. You've been everywhere.
Yeah, I know. I definitely thought somebody had put my name forward because I'm definitely not that good.
You are. Give yourself some credit. You're better than me.
No, I love it. Love talking Forest. So yeah, it's great. Thank you.
Good. Yes. Well, we'll be talking for the next half an hour or so. We are live. Can't do that long because I'm working the Manchester derby, so I've got to rush and make traffic through Manchester. Hopefully, beat it by 4:30. We'll be here for the next half an hour discussing the game. Let's start, shall we? Steve, we'll start with you. I mean, what do you make to the first half? Because Villa, obviously, which we'll get on to as well, because I think that's quite an interesting point looking at them and looking how they made so many changes ahead of obviously a big Champions League Wednesday night clash against PSG away in France. They made quite a few changes. Obviously, Forest did too. No Taiwo, so Alanga leads the line up front. Quite a narrow formation. And I don't know about you, but from minute one in that first half, it just didn't look to be our day. And then yet again, it was a silly few minutes that cost Forest. It was a little bit parallel to that Newcastle game.
There were similarities, but I think we can't underestimate Villa, who are a very good side, and they've got a very good squad, and they invested and brought in some really good players in January, which has allowed them to keep the momentum, in contrary to many teams that qualify for the Champions League and then fall away because you've got that sort of more regular Tuesday, Wednesday, weekend game, etc. So, you know, the headline was they made 8 changes, but none of their players are poor players. I think yesterday demonstrated that this summer's going to be really important for Forest. We've got, I would suggest, a really strong first 14, but after that, we're a bit lacking. I was really surprised at the decision to put Morata on the right of the defence as you're going forward and put Williams on the left. So Morata with Dominguez. Williams, you know, is a fullback, and Morata is left-footed, and Morata has played left-back for his previous clubs. So I was really expecting Morata to come in, but I guess it also demonstrates that the club's faith in Toffolo is not very high. Because there's a ready-made left-back who could have played left-back instead of, you know, however you want to do it. So I was surprised about our selection. And we just, for me, we looked, I think in the first 15, 20 minutes, I thought we looked a bit tired after the last few weeks, to be honest. And yeah, it was a mad couple of minutes, but Villa played really well and they were all over us and we weren't. And then we'll get on to the second half, which was, you know, completely chalk and cheese. But at 2-0, I turned around to a guy next to me and went, this is like the Newcastle game away. And I was expecting 3 or 4, and then I was expecting probably to even consider leaving early in the second half when it got embarrassing. But thankfully it didn't. And just before you ask, I was there until the end.
Of course, Steve. I expected nothing nothing less, mate. And that Saturday night programme that you love isn't on anymore, is it? It doesn't run in.
Nah, not until the autumn, mate.
Yes. Oh, you never know, Steve. I might be in contention in the next year.
You might be working on it, so don't knock it, mate.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
We're talking about Strictly Come Dancing, Sarah, just in case, because I once in the last 20 years missed a game because my wife and I went to see Strictly Come Dancing live in Manchester, and Max, and in particular his dad Ben, have never ever let me forget about it. But it did only happen once.
Yeah, I wouldn't let you forget about it either.
Thanks, Sarah.
Sarah, what did you?
I promise you it'll never happen again, because actually seeing it live was awful. But that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, watching it on the telly is awful too. Sarah, let's talk about the team selection. Steve obviously touched on it there. It did surprise me. I mean, I'm not surprised that Taiwo's injured and Taiwo's missing. We'll get on to that in a short while. But as Steve said, Harry Toffolo, a ready-made left-back, shows the kind of faith that Nuno, it must be very little to not play him. Morato then comes in, and I thought struggled quite a lot. And I thought Dominguez had a bit of a poor game, particularly up until he obviously got substituted. So it did surprise me, and I thought particularly in the midfield, Sarah, Forest struggled, and you could tell the difference of quality. And as Steve maybe says, the fitness and Forest being quite tired, Villa looked up for it. Villa looked ready and raring to go from minute one, and particularly the midfield, I just thought completely got turned over in that first half.
Yeah, I think it was quite obvious that we were missing a man in midfield, because at first he'd gone 5 at the back, and again, it was unfortunate, wasn't it? For the second, was it the second or the first goal? Morato was actually pulling his socks up, I think, wasn't he? When I looked it back on Match of the Day, but I mirror what Steve said. Really, it was a disappointing. The first 20 minutes, Aston Villa seemed up for it, and then as soon as he scored that second, they didn't seem so up for it, I felt. And it was actually seemed to get better during the first half, when we kind of thought, hold on, we are in a game here. And if we're not careful, we are going to have a cricket score. So, yeah, I felt it was a much improved first half, and then second half was completely different. But, yeah, it was quite noticeable about the midfield. I thought it was a shame about Morato, because we needed him really to step up, but I think it just showed how much we missed Aina and how much he does. And I can only think that, we lose some of our integral players, which is like, I mean, I think Wood would have put some of those chances away quite easily. It was quite noticeable. We know we didn't have a striker, and we were playing, a defence that wasn't used to playing like that. And I think every time we played a back five, we've not been very good. Yeah, and the midfield, I said the same. It was like we hadn't got a midfield at first. It was like they'd just disappeared and gone home. I don't know. And it was without Elanga making those runs, we didn't even get out of our half. And it was a complete change the second half. So, yeah, unbelievable. Like Steve, I did think, and we were laughing with the guy in front because it was 2-0, and he was saying, I normally go home at 2-0. And I was like, you can't go home. You can't go home at 2-0. And anyway, I knew that I would have been there for the duration, because there's no way Mick would have left early anyway. So I just thought, he's not going to take me to any more away matches.
Well, 2-0 is one of the most, I think in football it's one of the most frustrating score lines, because if you're on the kind of the receiving end of a 2-0, you think, there's no way coming back, but then you get a goal and all of a sudden everything's changing, and
after
the
20
momentum.
Minutes, you can come back. I mean, we were saying, though, the next goal wins this, and we scored the next goal, and it was almost like we should have, shouldn't we? We should have won it, really. We certainly should have come with a draw. Listening to the Villa fans on the train on the way back, I did, all they talked about was that they'd made quite a lot of changes, and I think Match of the Day, putting us on first, made all the changes. Look at Forest, they've lost a game, they put us on first. I mean, it was a good game, I know it was, for the neutral, but but like Steve said, there are 8 changes. They have, and then there's strong changes, and then they put they changed everybody second half. And I think that problem with us is we have got a strong, but it depends who's missing, and we then haven't got somebody that can just step in. Aino is, integral, isn't he? I think, with that defence. But second half, we took it to them.
Yeah, so no, it's a very good point as well, Sarah, you make about how many changes they made, but they do have that quality. And Steve, I suppose when you look at, Unai Emery talked about, I listened to an interview after the game, and he talked about Preston, Brighton, Forest and PSG. He's made so many changes during those games. He's kept the squad together. They've played 4 games in 7 days, Villa. And when you look at Forest and you think, well, if we're to make that step up and ultimately get European football, whichever European football it may be, Champions League, Europa League, whatever it is, Forest have to then look in the summer at making that. And I'm sure they will. I'm sure Marinakis will spend big, but they have to make that step up in terms of the recruitment, because with all due respect, if Forest have got a Champions League game on a Tuesday night and then it's a big game on the Premier League on a Saturday or a Friday night, we can't really be relying on the likes of Sosa, Willy Bolly, Jota Silva, just to name a few.
I agree, Max. I think, but to put it into perspective, Villa are at least 2, maybe 3 years ahead of us.
Yep.
So, we can, probably lots of us can remember that game down at the City Ground when Jack Grealish scored, and that was on that runner when Villa scored. When Villa won 10 games to get into the playoffs, and then they won the playoff final. Remarkable that they got into Europe, that they did so well last year, but they've built a squad over more years. We're not supposed to be where we are this year. It's absolutely incredible. It's fantastic, but we're not supposed to be third in the Premier League and in the semi-final of the FA Cup. We're supposed to be, as you and I talked about right at the beginning of the season, probably low mid-table, something like that, and show that steady progression. So, if everybody's fit, we've got a really strong first 11, and that's why we're third. There are then players like Danilo, Sangare, Jota Silva, Ramon Sosa, who are there or thereabouts. But after that, there isn't anybody. I don't think I've missed anybody. There isn't anybody who you'd consider as, if we've got an injury, you're guaranteed to put them in the first team. Possibly Taiwo, but Taiwo's not done it now for 18 months. He has too many injuries, and it sounds harsh, but Taiwo needs to be replaced. The player that we had in that first Premier League season is not Taiwo that we've got now. So there's a huge amount of investment going to be needed in the summer and change in the summer, because we're going to be in Europe. Whichever European competition we're going to be in, we're going to be in Europe, and we're going to want to go again in the cup competitions and everything else. So we can look forward to continued growth, but we don't have the squad depth that Villa have. So for me, the changes that were made and the tactical changes that were made at half time and the performance of the second half in comparison to the first half was absolutely remarkable. And that's why I say I came away with a good degree of optimism, because even with, Jota Silva on the pitch, Ramon Sosa on the pitch, Bolly, we looked competitive. We won the second half, and we should have scored twice instead of once. And we could easily have nicked a win. And I wish that Murillo shot was about 3 inches lower. Flipping heck. We're all waiting for that moment, aren't we?
There was many people in the away end, Steve, that used flipping heck in a very different term. They replaced the flipping with something else. Yeah, me included. When that hit the bar, I was like, how on earth has that not gone in? There was a fella next to me who kept going, honestly, if the goal was just that slightly bigger, Forest would have scored about 4 or 5. And maybe, as you said, Sarah, just a short while ago, if Chris Wood was on the end of some of those chances, particularly the crosses that Nico was putting into the 6-yard box, then Forest, it might have been a different story yesterday. And just touching on the recruitment there, just a point from me, I look at the likes of Nico Williams and I think Nico's quite a versatile player. He can play on either side. He's got that versatility about him. And even he had a poor game, but Morato can play in a different position. Even Dominguez, you're playing them out of position a little bit. Forest need more players like that, a winger who can be a striker next season, and that will help the squad depth and help us in those kind of difficult moments with so many games. Sarah, what do you put it's a bit of a challenging question, and we can't really answer it. But it's the same with Newcastle. It's even the same with that Bournemouth game. If we re-jog our memory to then, there's 2 minutes in between Villa's 2 goals, and it ultimately costs Forest. And it really is just put down to a lack of concentration. And Morato's there tying his shoelace for the second, a ball over the top, and you find yourselves 2 down and a massive mountain to climb.
Before so, can I just make a comment about Morato? If you look at the footage, he was adjusting his shin pad, and then the ref blew, and they played a really quick free kick. So in any other game, in any other circumstances, he wouldn't have been caught short. And they played the ball to Tielemans, who then immediately saw Morgan Rogers and played it over. So I think there's lots of stuff on Twitter, and there's and Alan Shearer had a go at him last night. I just think a bit of perspective's needed. I don't think it was quite as bad as lots of people are talking about. But I just wanted to make that point, because I think there's a danger of Morata gets slated for yesterday's performance, and it's all put on him, and it isn't that. Sorry.
It's all right. No, it's a good point. Sarah, I mean, the 2 minutes were just silly again, and just a lack of concentration from Forest.
Yeah, it is. But again, with Morato, I don't blame him. He's not playing week in, week out. It always takes people a little bit of time to get used to it. And they just went for us, didn't they, in the first, 5-10 minutes. And that's what they did. And they did it really well, like we normally do. And I think we were just a little bit slow reacting. That's what we had yesterday. That's all I can put it down to. A little, obviously a bit more pressure on us, a bit more pressure on those ones that hadn't been starting, a bit of a different formation. And I'm not looking at blaming anybody. And just mentioning recruitment, if you look at where we recruited for the season before to last season, wow, those two players coming in, Milenkovic and Anderson, what great recruitment. So if we can do the same next year, we haven't recruited this year for Europe. We've recruited to stay in the Premier League. Yeah. Aston Villa has recruited to be in Europe. They've had that carrot to dangle. So they've been able to get those players. Look, they've got Asensio from PSG, and everyone around me is going, how the hell have they got him? Well, obviously a lot of money in wages, but they've got Champions League. And, I know he can't play next week. He is a PSG, isn't he? I know he can't play next week for them, but that's why they've got him. And that's why we haven't. But I think Jota did well yesterday. Everyone's, they loved him at the beginning, then they didn't like him, and now they love him again. And I think that's the difference, isn't it? He's learning on the way. And, you listen to some of the media that comes out of Forest, and they're all chatting. And one thing they're all saying, the Brazilian players and the players from abroad, is how fast the Premier League is. And it's like every single team, it's so fast. The pitches are so fast. It's so amazing. It's all this. But, wow, they have to get used to it really quick. And I don't think Morato's had as much time as everybody else, and Jota hasn't, and Sosa hasn't, So I think Sosa looks really good. Sometimes he just makes those wrong decisions. Did I answer your question, by the way, Max?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, no, you did, Sarah. But to be honest, the point you've gone off on is brilliant. Honestly, no, it's a great point. It's a really, really good point.
So I see Sosa come on, and I think, great, but I know he's going to probably make the odd wrong decision, and you think, oh, if only that decision was slightly, then we would probably have more goals. And I thought that when he came on, I know he was on against Brighton and he scored, didn't he? But he's been on a few times, and I thought, I think it might have been Aston Villa at home. And I thought, he's really got something.
United in the week as well, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Yeah, he did come on at United. But that's how I feel about him. But I think he just needs a bit more time. Then they just need to bed into the Premier League. And we do need those extra quality players as well. But if it's anything to go by what we've just done this past year, wow, it's going to be amazing. Surely,
Agreed.
Yeah, no, spot on. And I think that it brings me quite nicely onto my next point, Steve, is that, when that substitution was made for Jota for Elanga, there was some eyebrows raised, including from me. I thought, what on earth is Nuno doing? I will totally admit that. But he absolutely changed the game. He flipped the game on its head. Jota Silva, I thought he was excellent. I thought he was chasing everything. Yes, he gave away a few silly fouls, but isn't that what Jota Silva's brought on to do, that S-housery? And I thought he was just brilliant. I thought he just got in, and I just thought he got in every single Villa player's face. And I honestly thought he changed the course of the game, and he took the ball off Anderson, but it was a decent finish.
I thought he did really well. I mean, and all credit to him, because as Sarah rightly said, he sort of, he was a hero right at the beginning, wasn't he, when he scored that goal in the Carabao Cup against, was it Newcastle, before he went to penalties, and everybody loved him, and everybody loves his energy and his enthusiasm, which is what he brought to the pitch yesterday, and all the S-housery. I mean, that's another part of his game, but Sarah probably saw it from where we were sitting. I'm convinced that Martinez actually hit him in the stomach with that, when they had that little sort of fracas at the end of the edge of the penalty area. And Martinez got away with it, but then he got away with lots of stuff yesterday. But he did really well. And I agree with Sarah's point. When Sousa comes on, he excites me. He's not going to get it all right. We've talked about this before, Max. They're young kids. I mean, certainly in comparison to me, the young kids come to a different country, having to settle in, having to perform absolutely at the peak of their powers to stand a chance of competing in the world's best football league. You can't underestimate that. It's really, really tough. I was very fortunate early in my career. I moved abroad, and it's not easy. I was in Italy for a couple of years. It's not easy to make that move. So these are people who are having to not only make that move, but perform on a public stage in front of everybody, and great credit to them. The thing that I keep coming back to yesterday that surprises me is Morata playing on the right. Whenever he comes on, or whenever he plays, he always plays on the left of the defence, because he's left-footed. So to play him on the right as a sort of a...
I was shocked you didn't even start a left back, Steve. I thought you would be in contention, because he played quite a few games in his career as a left back. I was shocked that Nuno didn't do that.
Well, and also keeping Nico on the right, putting Nico on the right. Nico's right-footed, but Nico's very, very comfortable at right back. So, if I suppose the difficulty then was, okay, you might have needed to keep Nico at left back and then put Dominguez, but move them across and have Milenkovic, Murillo, Morata, that sort of way. But who are we to judge? Nuno's, or who am I to judge? Sorry, Nuno's just won his third Manager of the Month award, so he clearly knows infinitely better than I do. But it was a surprising decision, and I think it cost us that first 15, 20 minutes. We looked like we were going to recover from it. We could have done, and it was very, very close, wasn't it, in the end? And it was disappointing not to come away with something, but as I'll keep coming back to, we've got, 7 games to go in the Premier League? 3 wins. 4 wins, I reckon, will guarantee us champions.
And we've got 4 at home.
Yeah, and we've got 4 at home. I mean, next week's important because it's the next game. And Everton took a point off Arsenal, and Everton are no mugs anymore under David Moyes, but at home with the crowd, hopefully a sunny Saturday afternoon at the City Ground, and we'll be on 60 points, and people go, yeah, we're nearly there.
Yeah, for sure. That was the reason we lost yesterday, that blooming Manager of the Month case. It always gets Forest. I think it always gets all teams.
It hasn't the other 2 times, has it? I think the other 2 times.
Oh, is it not?
Yeah, we've gone on and kept winning, but anyway, it is what it is. As a famous ex-manager used to say.
Yeah, you can still listen to that interview if you fancy. Bit of promo.
No, it was shocking.
You loved it, Steve. Don't be daft.
You don't want to ask me, Max.
Sarah, moving swiftly on. What was going to ask you, Sarah? I was going to ask you about, does that second half performance, and I kind of know the answer to the question, give you enough faith going into these last 7 games? Because, we talked about it a lot on the podcast, but the team has got that fight, that energy, that desire, that you do trust them to come back from trailing, and they nearly did yesterday. That Murillo chance at the end, we've talked about. If Chris Wood was on the pitch, if Olarena was fit yesterday, could have been a different game. But I don't know about you, I certainly have the utmost of faith and confidence that Forest still will finish in the Champions League places and will, fingers crossed, pick up 4 wins, as you mentioned, at home.
Well, for me, we're still there, aren't we? Still Old Forest, We're still all thinking, wait for, even the fans ourselves are thinking, we're not going to do Champions League.
It's a Forest
we
thing,
might not even do, but this is Nuno Forest, isn't it now? This is Nuno Forest, And I'm there yesterday thinking, what on earth has he done taking Elanga off? He must have been injured. Maybe that shoulder barge in the penalty area. I don't know, something. Obviously, there was something wrong. Oh no, this is it now. We're going to lose 4 or 5. What do I know? Nuno knows what he's doing, doesn't he? Yeah, maybe he made. There was some. He wasn't expecting that first 20 minutes, was he? He was expecting a different start, not that. And what he got, whatever he said to them second half was unbelievable. I just kept going, what has he said to them? Because they're like a different team, aren't they? I mean, even without Elanga on, because I thought without him, it's. I've got all the faith in the team and in Nuno to do it, because he knows he's calm. He's not going to get carried away. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be closer than what we'd like to think. And even if it isn't Champions League, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Europa. But we're probably all going to feel a bit disappointed now, aren't we? How crazy is that for us lot to feel like that? I mean, I've already been looking about Champions League away games. How many I'm going to have to get, how much more holiday I'm going to have to buy from work. What? But this is what this season's done for us, hasn't it? But if it doesn't happen, then equally we're still going to have had such a great season. Obviously not as good as it could have been if we actually do get Champions League. But I'm not going to be disappointed with this season, and I'm not going to be doom and gloom. I don't want to be a doom and gloom Forest fan.
You can't be.
Don't want to be. I'm not going to be. I'll put my stick my neck out.
There's nothing to be disappointed about this season, is there?
I mean, I put like 20 quid on 250 to 1 each way if I was going to get first or second. So that was a while ago, and so who knows?
Yeah.
Well,
dinner on you, Sarah.
An update on that. Liverpool are losing 3-1, so it's not all over yet.
Well, I think we needed to win yesterday, didn't we? I think that was the thing. A draw would have kept Aston Villa a bit further away. Yeah. But hopefully, I'm kind of thinking we're at least going to get 4th or 5th, and the other places are going to be, fought out by Man City, Chelsea, Newcastle, and Aston Villa. I think Brighton's too far away. I don't think Fulham's going to do it now.
I think Villa are too far away. They're 6 points behind us, having played
they
the same.
Are, yeah.
So let's assume we win 3 out of the next 7. That's another 9 points. So it means that City, Newcastle, Chelsea, they've got to win 5, maybe 6 or 7 out of their last.
We've got to have relegation form, haven't we?
I mean,
we've got to have relegation form not to make Champions League, I think.
Yeah.
Is that right? That's how I'm thinking. That's what I'm looking at. And if we think now that we're still going to hit relegation form after the season we've seen and with Nuno, then wow, are we really? Come on, we've got to feel better than that. I do. Yeah. I'll put my neck out there. I'm a delusional Forest fan. I always say that.
On we all.
Yeah, I totally.
It could be a really exciting last game of the season, though, couldn't it? Home to Chelsea.
Yeah, great.
For a Champions League place
instead of a relegation place.
Flipping out.
Wow, you'd take that, wouldn't you? Everybody would.
Having won the FA Cup the weekend before.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I know.
It's the day before my birthday, so it could be a good week. That if we win the FA Cup and then we get Champions League, and then,
are we allowed to tell listeners we're all coming to your party after the Chelsea game?
Well, Steve,
you're buying the drinks, aren't you, at the game? You said,
yeah, of course, yeah. Max's magic, I don't know, the Garibaldi red credit card or something, yeah.
Well, I know. A special party for anyone who's been anywhere near the Garibaldi Red podcast this season, I think, It's boosted your career to get on 5 Live and eventual host of Match of the Day and all that sort of stuff. Come on.
No, I do it for you guys. It's not for me, I promise you.
Yeah,
I promise you. I promise you. I like talking about Forest. Well, sometimes. It depends where we are, but this season's been brilliant, hasn't it? Right, I think that'll do us nicely. Sorry we're not going on for too long. Bit of a mad one today with getting off for work and things, so my apologies. We'll be back this week with another one previewing Everton, which will be a challenging game. David Moyes bringing Everton to the City grounds, but that's all it is. 4 wins at home will do us nicely. Sarah, thanks very much. You doing anything nice for the rest of the day?
I'm going to potter around in the garden. I've been to the garden centre, hence this is my age, you see now. All I want to do is spend time in the garden. This is what I love. It comes with being in your 50s, my friend.
Sounds like something my mum and dad would do.
Although I've just heard my one of my girls come with one of my grandchildren, so I've already seen both. Well, I've seen one of them already today, so I think it's the other one. So yeah, I see lots of those. So
are they both Forest fans, Sarah?
They both used to go, as you remember. They used to sit near you.
Yes.
But they're both married Derby fans.
Oh.
But it's really funny because Ollie, who's only just turned 2, I always get him shouting Forest, and he's like going Forest, Forest. So I am hopeful that I'll be giving my ticket up maybe every so often for his granddad to take him to Forest.
Bless. Steve, what about you, mate? Anything nice this afternoon?
I might be in the garden, but I can guarantee if I am, all I'll be doing there is sitting in there and enjoying it. That's
what my husband's doing. He's laid on the sofa.
I'm not going to be anywhere near any gardening. Sorry, Sarah.
Oh, okay.
You two could do a gardening podcast.
Absolutely not. No.
I go out every day to see.
You could do a Strictly podcast, Steve.
Yeah.
We could get you hosting the Strictly podcast. Yeah, Sarah does garden.
Max, I'm absolutely insistent. Gardens are for sitting in. Full stop.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll leave it like that.
You get off to work.
Yes, I better go. Right. Thanks for all the comments live on Facebook, Nottingham Forest News, and YouTube, Garibaldi Red. Steve, Sarah, thanks as always. We'll be back midweek. Give us a like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us across Spotify and Apple Podcasts. 7 games to go. Champions League. It's still on, isn't it? We'll see you next time. Bye bye.